Okay, we'll be talking about page 2 of chapter 3 and 7. So this will be more information on India. This page will discuss some of the empires of India. And this first section, origins, were with the Aryan people and the Vedas that we talked about previously. We'll be talking about two religions today, Hinduism and Buddhism, and both of those religions began in India. A lot of people here, especially Buddhism, and they think China. It was a very big part of China, but both of these did in fact start in India. So Hinduism worship a variety of gods that give form to Brahman. Literally hundreds of gods are part of the Hindu religion. The origins were with the Aryan people. Sorry, I already read that. So the gods are Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Those are probably the three major gods in the Hindu religion, but again, there are literally hundreds. Okay, and I like these pictures. I think this face is actually supposed to be on the other side, but very interesting. The four arms, the four heads, sitting on the lotus flower. I'm sure that all of these things in these pictures, every little detail that's on these has some meaning in the Hindu faith. Okay? Hindus believe that the ultimate goal is achieving moksha, which is a union with Brahman. And then this picture, interesting, I don't know the story behind it, but you've got the elephant with the crocodile biting its foot, or alligator, and same thing in this one. And then there's the god on a bird, coming in on a bird in both pictures. Again, just very similar, but again, I'm not sure exactly what that story is all about. Okay, reincarnation is the rebirth of the soul in another bodily form until they reach moksha. So you live your life, you die, and then you're reborn into another bodily form. It could be an animal, it could be an insect, but that's just part of the Hindu faith, that they believe you'll be reborn, and it goes. We'll talk about what they believe about that. You can see the pictures here: the guy getting older, dying, being reborn. I guess you can be reborn into another human form, but sometimes it is a different form. Anyway, so, okay. So karma, all the actions of a person's life affecting their fate in the next life. So how you live your life will depend on your fate in the next life. So if you are living as good as possible, you might be reborn as another person. If you're not doing such a good job, you might be born as an insect. Dharma are the religious and moral duties of an individual, and Dharma is the divine law, and karma is ruled by Dharma. Again, I think last year with geography, we didn't get to this unit while everybody was here before the virus hit, but I usually tell a story, and maybe I did in my video last year. There's an old TV commercial. It's about a Kyocera phone. The guy's at a funeral. Well, his phone goes off. It's very loud, very disrespectful, you know, and he grabs it, and he's talking very loud. Oh yeah, sure, I can talk. Well, this squirrel is up in a tree and it poops on him. So then he looks up and it lands on his face, and he stands up screaming, twirling around, ends up falling in the grave, and the casket is still outside. Well, it falls in on top of him. Or is it a piano? I can't remember. Anyway, something falls in on him, and they say karma. So because of his actions at the funeral, that's how he was dealt with. Here's a little description. What you put into the world comes back to you. How you live your life determines what kind of life you will have. Okay? Buddhism is the next religion. This was about the 6th century BC. Buddhism was founded by Siddhartha Gautama, who was an Indian prince. And he was known as the Buddha or the Enlightened One. And the reason he was considered the Enlightened One is he reached enlightenment after meditating under a tree for 40 days. You can see that picture there, depicting that he was meditating for that 40 days. So at the end of that time, he felt like he had arrived at the truth, or the knowledge, had been enlightened. Okay? I had to throw this one in since you guys didn't see my slides from Korea. This is a statue of Buddha that's at a park in Korea. I've actually been to this one. There's a place where you can climb up the back of this hill, and there's a little spot where you can kind of walk out and be to the edge there. Okay? The Four Noble Truths are the major ideas of Buddhism. And so as he contemplated and thought about life, these are the things that he came up with. The Four Noble Truths are: suffering is universal, the origin of suffering is attachment, whether it be a possession or a person, the cessation of suffering is attainable, and the path to cessation of suffering is detachment. So we shouldn't get attached to possessions, and maybe it's hard to not get attached to family members, right? But those are the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. Okay? So suffering, pain, and sorrow are part of life, and we are to overcome desire by following the Eightfold Path, and then by doing that, a person can achieve nirvana. Okay? So these are the Four Noble Truths: that we have the suffering and the attachment and detachment, and it's attainable. And then overcoming desire by following the Eightfold Path, which is the right understanding, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. So just like with Hinduism, their goal is to achieve moksha. With the Buddhist faith, it's reaching nirvana. Okay, the next section, talking about some of the new empires in India. We have the Mauryan Empire, was formed by Chandragupta Maurya, who ruled from about 324 to 301 BC. And he was the first great Indian empire, or he created the first great Indian empire. He drove out foreign forces from his land, and then his grandson was named Asoka, and he was the most honored Mauryan emperor. His rule brought peace and prosperity. Asoka was considered to be the greatest ruler in the history of India, and India became a major crossroads of trade. After his death, the empire declined. So under his leadership, you can see the Mauryan dynasty here. This area would be modern-day Pakistan, but as far as trade, you've got the water that surrounds India, the land, China's to the east, all these other countries. And so it was a crossroads as people went back and forth trading from one group to the next. The Deccan, remember the Deccan Plateau. The Deccan had people called Dravidians with different languages and traditions. And within this society, women enjoyed a high status, which really is fairly odd, especially this time. But even today in some societies, that's not a real popular thing. But the women did enjoy a high status in this society. They had a unique language called Tamil, and Indian trade overseas increased. Another group that was in this area at the time was the Kushan Empire in the 1st century AD, and then that will take us to the final empire, or the next one, I should say. But with the Dravidians, I'm not sure why this one's so far away from the others, but you can see the location more in the southern part of the Indian subcontinent. And then the Gupta Empire was India's last great empire that enjoyed a golden age. So as we go through the rest of the year, especially with Greece and Rome, we'll be talking about golden ages. So it's a time where they're very prosperous, they're not involved in wars, the people are happy, everything's just good. It's just a golden age. And you can see the location of the Gupta Empire up in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. Okay, and some of their achievements. So in the area of art and literature, remember we talked about the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Arabic numerals, the concept of zero. You know, the idea that there was a zero value. And the decimal system. They had medical advances, and they also built stupas. A stupa is a pagoda, shrine, or temple. I've got some examples here. You can see these here. You actually walk into these little pagodas or shrines, but that's what a stupa is. So these are some of the major advances for this civilization. So that's the end of page 2. We'll get into page 3 and 4 with China. Again, this is just 2 pages of information. The book itself is a condensed form of their history. The history of India and China could fill volumes, but you know, scholars have to put it into a smaller form, and we have these few chapters, and then I've tried to put it into 2 pages, and so it's really difficult. It's why it's important to read your chapters, because there's so much information, and hopefully as you read it will tie a lot of this information together. Thank you.